Hello, everyone. It's Josh. Today I'm joined by Ollie. You can say hi.
Hello.
Uh, this is kind of a spur of the moment, but I think that this game needs some content, and I didn't want to play. So we're going to talk about cards today, and we're going to talk about what we think's good, what we think is bad, what's overrated, what's underrated, and I mean, pretty much everything and anything. So we're just going to scroll through the collection. My first thought on page one here. Everything's pretty Um, Aegis Barrier can be good, but I don't see many people playing that. The rest of these are pretty mid.
Why can Aegis Barrier, or why can Div cycle, but Aegis Barrier can't? Tell me this.
That's a good question. Div actually is just broken. That's why. I think you're right though. Aegis Barrier should probably have a draw card attached to it. Continue. I mean, what do you think about Aura Nexus? I think this card's actually not that bad.
I think it's pretty sick. I think if people actually ran Nexus Divine Bond shenanigans, it performs pretty well. It's just nice in tempo lists, especially if you're running things like Skywind Glaives or War Surge.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe this is
I think
a
generally
piece that you could play with Desark?
yes, I would play that over Sundrop in many metas. Anytime where Songhai isn't powerful and Lionar is, I think Ord Nexus is quite good.
I mean, this Nexus is like Sundrop. They both give a minion 4, but I mean, Nexus is probably better most of the time since I think if you're spamming stuff early, you don't have minions with 4 HP, 5 HP besides Silverguard. So Sundrop's really only better
Lionar
for
or
your
Nexus
face.
heals. Yeah, Nexus heals a minion and your general for 4. Sundrop just heals your general for 4.
I suppose, yeah. If you
They
think
gotta
about it
murder
that
your
way,
dudes.
that's actually
Yeah.
true. That's a good point.
It's pretty sick against Lionar.
Yeah. What do you think about Magnetize? I think that this is actually not a horrible card.
That dank tech card.
It's good removal, I think, and it's also good for when your stuff gets sent to the corner by like Demonic Lure or Juxtaposition.
I'm a big fan of Magnetize. I just don't think Lionar lists have any space for it.
That's fair.
I think you just run Riftwalker instead because it's the same type of removal but better, more consistent, and an MO enabler. And Lio just lives long enough for their shit to walk back across the screen.
Well, I think this might be really interesting with Sloth, you know, pulling stuff onto the tiles.
You know, there might be some space there to build a deck. But that's just Sloth being Sloth.
Well, yeah, that is Sloth. I don't know. I mean,
Speaking of
the rest
Sloth,
of these cards.
Lion is dramatically better with Sloth in the game.
Yeah, blue tile. It's pretty good.
Blue tile, go burr.
I think Silverguard Squire is not such a bad card. Could have use with Lady Lock. But I mean,
I just kind of put it in any mid-range Lio list that has space. 1 mana 1/4 is really fun with MO.
It's like Komodo kind of. Usually just play Komodo over this.
Yeah.
But I think you can play both with like Glaives. So.
Yeah, that's the problem. You want to play Silverguard with Glaives and War Surge, but if you're playing Glaives and War Surge, you play Komodo first, and then you just don't have deck space for Silverguard.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Very Unga Bunga.
You could just play 55 cards, so there's always that.
You can.
Light Chaser, this is my first highly overrated of the day. I think that this
I
is
think it sucks.
kind of bad, but a lot of people play it. But you just think
I think
Helionar is bad?
Helionar has a place in the meta. I think it's pretty bad into the mirror, and I think the only reason you really run it is if Songhai is very present, because you're already running the healing to survive, so you might as well just put in the 4-drop. But I wouldn't
Right.
include Light Chaser in that list.
Yeah. No, I
I
don't think
think the only
this.
saving grace it has is that it survives for turn 1, and I think that's like
That's true.
valuable, but that's
You
it.
know, it survives red tile sloth, so think about that.
Yeah,
Um,
it being a 1/4 is nice, and everything else about it not nice.
yeah. The rest of this doesn't really stand out to me. Bond nerf kind of sucks. Lasting Judgment
Yeah.
is mid as hell. These cards are interesting. Martyrdom, I think, is very, very slightly overrated. I think it's very good, but I don't like playing this in tempo decks very much. Because I simply do not want to heal my opponent.
If you're playing War Surge or Skywind Glaives, you don't run Martyrdom unless every single player on ladder is a Linar player. In which case, it's your only way to kill Ironcliff.
Yeah. The rest of this stuff, I don't know. Windblade, that's just Windblade. That's a good card.
I think Arclight Sentinel is actually underrated. I think it
You
should
think
see more play
underrated?
than it does. Yeah. I think
What
it's a
makes you
solid
say
2
that?
of in a lot of decks, especially popularity of Div, the Linar 4-drop. I still can't remember the name of, going to 4
Oh,
means you can just
Sunriser.
clear it with General and Arclight from hand. Yeah, Sunriser. It just clears up a lot of dudes early. Pretty
Yeah.
nice on things like Sloth, turning it into a 3/4. And yeah, just like nice tempo card.
Yeah. Definitely with
We
the
like
red
those.
tile, pretty strong.
Yeah.
It should kind of give people a hint of how strong the sloth is that we're talking about it, despite, you know,
Every single card.
yeah. For every single card
Every
has
single card
synergy
is
with
how does
sloth.
this interact with Sloth?
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, Arclight Regalia, trash.
Yeah, this is
Get blue tiled, lose the game.
not good. It can be good, but I mean, with red tile and blue tile, like the red one procs your Regalia and breaks a charge with the general, and you don't do any counterattack damage. So it's just kind of rough. And stacking them doesn't make it any better.
People used to make their deck markedly worse by running Rust Crawler to break your Regalias. Now they just run the best card in the game and also break your Regalia. So,
yeah, so
don't put it in your deck.
Don't play this card. I mean, Glaives I think is really strong. I don't know that a lot of people have much respect for this card, but I have it in high regards.
Should play it. Very good with Sloth.
Regalia, don't put this in your
actually,
deck. Glaives, put this in your deck.
Tempest? How has its place in the meta changed with Riftwalker becoming so popular?
I think it's better.
I think Tempest plus Riftwalker is very good. I've seen a lot of people cutting Tempest from their decks and replacing it with Riftwalker, but I feel like Riftwalker actually replaces Tiger in Lion-R list. And you just run it in addition to Tempest.
Right. I really like the feature of Riftwalker where you can airdrop it and play Holy Ammo on top of it for like a 6 damage AoE. This is pretty neat.
Anywhere kind of neat.
It's like Cliff Bomb, but 2 turns earlier and does more damage.
Yeah.
But no, I think stacking Tempest and Riftwalker, like having the recurring, like exactly the same almost in most cases effects.
Yeah.
is pretty strong.
good.
Because like
If you could run 6 Tempests, you would run 6
right, because like
Tempests.
well, we know how strong double Tempest turns can be, just like wiping the whole board. So Riftwalker is like throwing a 1 mana 3/2 on top of that, kind of.
So it doesn't hit your board.
It also does not nuke you if you're skilled. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Anyway,
it's interesting.
moving on.
I always like One of Decimate. I think this card is underrated, but maybe not
I
when everyone's
definitely
playing
think more people
Lionar.
should play it. No, I
Lots
think
of stuff
because
is
everyone's playing Lionar.
yeah.
I think Decimate is a very good card in this meta.
I was gonna say
think
lots
one
of
should be included in most lists.
yeah, I like this one. I was gonna say everything is close quarters now with like Sloth and Silverguard and Ironcliff, so maybe you're not gonna get a lot of value out of Decimate, but I mean, even hitting,
I think
it hits Riftwalker really nicely.
the name of the it hits a lot of things really well. I think right now the name of the game is whatever the slower Lionar deck is wins when you're playing the mirror, and it's gotten to the point where people are playing like 1 of Zuriel, 2 of Zuriel,
Right.
in 55 card lists, which are troll, by the way, but Decimate is pretty much the one way to beat those decks.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
really a
Decimate's
spell of
good.
inclusion to just pick up some wins against Songhai and the super late game decks.
Yeah. Zuriel does drop everything in random spots, so being able to just wipe that out for 4 mana is pretty good. Hard counter. I was using Decimate to hard counter Jax and Prophet for the longest time, since you can't hit it with Tempest. But yeah. Other thoughts? Suntide Maiden. I think that this is interesting. I don't know if I'd call it good, but I see some people running it in like this Helionar style deck. And it kind of works.
I think Suntide's biggest issue, having tried to play it in Helionar a bunch, is that people try and play it in Helionar instead of trying to play it in Tempo. It's really nice when you're playing Skywind Glaives and Oran Nexus, and all these cards that boost it up above 6 health, because 6 health is a threshold most decks can kill pretty easily. But you put it to like 7, 8, 10 health, suddenly the thing's unkillable. And it becomes a powerhouse. It's not so much about activating heals as just having this huge stat stick that hits for 3 to 5 every turn.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
go on.
I think it's underrated, but not dramatically. I think it's a step below playable.
Well, I think it's really not
on the verge.
It's not a bad card, because like if you think of Hailstone Golem, that's a 4/4/6. So this trades 1 attack for this really like strong effect.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like it should be playable.
It's almost there. I think if you're playing Shaman and or a Nexus, you have a pretty fun deck with Suntides.
Yeah. Shaman, notably, good with Riftwalker because you can kill it.
Yeah.
So
I think there's an interesting like kind of Healy tempo bonds deck to be built with these cards.
Yeah.
But I think it sits a tier below the average strength of a Lionar deck. I just think it's viable, but not very.
I agree. I think it could find some play if there's a little more support in the first expansion. Like if there was Afterblaze, maybe.
Yes. With Afterblaze, that card would be so good.
Yeah. Elix, Stormblade, highly underrated.
I would have agreed before the bond change. I think he's pretty sad now. I think he doesn't do enough in the late game, and he doesn't do enough in mid-rangey tempo lists, that he just doesn't really have a place in the meta. where that one tile of difference usually doesn't matter now because everyone is playing so close.
Right.
And he's just vanilla 7/7 with taunt, which loses to things like Syndra that see a lot of play.
That's true. The extra space is really strong, but yeah, you're right. Bringing back the point that I made before and forgot about, that everything is close. Maybe doesn't matter as much.
Just play Sloth XD.
Yeah, just play Sloth. Nothing else here really sticks out.
Not good. Zir is fine against greedy Songhai lists that don't run any removal. Like, probably play Pandora for the mirror.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
So Second Sun with Divine Bond doesn't go up to 16 attack, right? It still stays at 8.
It does.
Oh, it does.
It goes up to 16
okay.
because it's a seal effect.
Right.
It sets the base attack, yeah. So, Silverguard Knight goes up to 9 attack, it gains 4, and Second Sun gains 8 attack, so it goes up to 16. So those are the only 2 cards that have really strong bond interactions.
Right.
Ironcliff and Duelyst are obviously the classics. They still kind of work.
It's still pretty good with those 2.
So, yeah, when you start like slapping in the Auron Nexus and the Shamans, you start getting close to a place where you can do a combo. But it's just not consistent enough, and the fact that the cards are so tied to bond, it's very telegraphed and hard to execute without things like Magnetize.
Yeah, it's hard without repositioning. Your opponent kind of has
played
to
it
be
right after the bond
thinking.
change. Yeah. And also Dispel is just very present in the meta right now for a lot of reasons. Trials being one of them.
We made it through one faction. It's gonna be a long video. We keep talking like that.
I think we're gonna get quite a bit faster now that we're off the faction we both play the most of.
Well, that's true.
Ancestral Divination, card that defines the meta right now.
Broken.
Inner Focus, broken. Jux, broken. Heartseeker, broken.
Not
Riftwalker,
too broken,
makes it worse.
But very broken. I think Heartseeker is kind of not broken, but like one step beneath it.
Yeah. Before Riftwalker, Heartseeker necessitated Blood Tier in a lot of decks that Riftwalker now mitigated. So it's a pretty chill card now. If you're not playing Kalios, you're wrong. Otherwise, moving on.
Yep, this is the best general. Notably on this page, Mana Vortex is pretty bleh, considering Spell High is kind of in the gutter. Chakri, obviously, nerfed to an O2.
High.
This thing's 2 mana.
I think Spell High's still okay.
It's not bad, but it's not. I mean, the green tile really hurts.
Yeah, it changes things.
I have to play Dispel or your own Sloth.
I was thinking not Artifact. Arcanist Songhai might have a leg to stand on now with the div change, where it just lets you draw into a lot of your cards by playing the Arcanists, because you have a bunch of cheap options. I don't think it's good. I think it's worse than other div lists, but I think it might actually be playable now.
Yeah, I could maybe see that.
You know, through the bottom of S rank. But
there's a lot of other things on this page that I want to talk about. Mistwalking Mask of Shadows. Have you been seeing people playing this? Because I have.
Yeah. I haven't been seeing as much Mistwalking, mostly Silhouette
Tracer, but yeah.
But Mask of Shadows has been pretty annoying. I became fairly neurotic about just putting things behind me at all times to play around. Goddamn random backstab for 9.
It's, I mean, for 1 mana to get an extra 4 damage is quite something.
And return damage.
If you can get yourself behind Sloth, you can one-shot it with your general, which is pretty good. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this card, because I don't think it's the strongest, but I see some people really going crazy for Mask of Shadows right now. So,
I think if it's only a couple cards, it's a pretty solid inclusion because it forces people to play around it. Like if you only run one or
sure.
two, they don't know that you only run one or two, so you always have to play around it. It's like running one of Decimate.
Hmm.
It's frustrating enough that it's sometimes worth including just to mess with people.
Right.
Also, it clears 2-drops on turn 1, which is good.
It does. It gives you one
Gain
attack.
1 attack, punch a 2/3.
That's true. Death Strike Seal, I think, is mildly underrated with all the big lads going around on ladder right now. Not great, but could be worse.
I think Death Strike Seal would be a deck if Widowmaker wasn't nerfed on the same patch that all the big lads came about.
White Widow, right?
Also, green tiles protect against most activators of Death Strike Seal, which is kind of interesting.
That's true. Like you
If
can't
Death
just
Strike
stick
ever
it on
became
a Heartseeker.
popular, yeah, or a Widowmaker. So, food for thought. Sloth OP.
Yeah. And I mean, other things here. I think Kaido is just solid, very good 2-drop.
Kaido
Backstab 2 now.
would be content if Kaido went back to Backstab 1. I don't like it with its current stat line. Not gonna lie.
You can do some stuff with like Primus Fist Jux to kill Silver Guards early on, and then you still can like you can play like you can do like Kaido on 1 into like Boar Fist Jux, killing the Silver Guard, hitting face for 4, having a 3/3, a 2/3, a 4/1. So that's kind of strong.
It was the card that I disliked the most in Songhai before this patch. It became a lot less of a problem with Riftwalker coming down because suddenly the general was able to clear it much more consistently, and also Sloth being able to let the general clear it pretty consistently. And then obviously Div became my issue with the faction.
Yeah, Div is quite strong.
Miss Dragon Seal,
I think it's good as a 1.
Like almost good enough to play.
1 of, maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need
I think it's solid. Yeah. It's a 4th Jux.
Yeah, and
it gets your Chakra avatar into their face.
It does, and some people play around juxtaposition, so it's also pretty useful in those cases. And the 1/1 can matter. Like, again, if you Kaido Mist Dragon, you can kill a Silver Guard Knight.
Yeah.
So 5 health is important. Any other thoughts on that card?
Phoenix.
Phoenix Fire?
Or Mist Dragon? Phoenix Fire, I think, is overrated.
I do too. I wouldn't play this at the moment.
A lot of people putting it in their spell high lists as 3-ofs, and I usually am pretty happy when I see them play a Phoenix Fire from hand.
Yeah, well, it's bad because Songhai is so broken that 2 mana deal 3 isn't very good.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and along with
playing
that,
it from a Lantern Fox.
I was gonna say, along with that, I think Fox is really bad, and Zenrui being so popular because of Sloth makes Fox even worse.
Yeah. Tuskboar, second best card in the faction.
Yep, this card's really broken.
Mask. Be really good in a slightly slower meta, but
it's
it just doesn't have the support it needs.
As a 1-of, maybe. Because I find myself in a lot of games with Songhai, like, going really hard and then backing up and playing for Spiral Technique, so this is like a recurring 2 damage. Kind of slow for 3 mana. It could be useful with the red tile as well, getting your general up to 3 attack.
I think it's just Songhai has so many powerful things they can do. Most of the time, it's just a brick you put in your deck.
Yeah.
Its good cases do exist, they just don't happen often enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jade Monk is underrated.
I think it is slightly under. Again, I think it's the problem where Songhai has so much powerful stuff that playing like a 2 or even a 1 mana 4/3 isn't that great. I tried to test with it, and it's kind of hard to pull things off with divination, honestly.
The time it comes down as a 4/3, in which case it's just the same as the neutral. That's a 4/3 if you deal 2 damage to the enemy, or damage to the enemy general. But if you also like play a Jux that turn or Inner Focus, which is pretty common on div turns, it very quickly becomes K.
That's true.
I think people don't think enough before they decide not to put it in their deck, but I do think it's often not an inclusion. Mostly because other cards have more specifically useful effects, and deck space is limited.
Yeah, that's fair. The rest of these cards are kind of Onyx Bear might be playable.
4 Winds.
4 Winds is kind of in the
think
gutter.
One of 4 Winds is crying right now.
4 Winds is in the gutter. Green Tile is Omega broken.
Yeah.
Makes this card just unplayable. The rest of this is whatever. I have no strong feelings on these cards either. Spiral is good. I run 2 of them in my div deck. They sometimes brick me, but other than that, they usually win the game like 90% of the time, so.
Put it in your deck.
What was that?
How do we feel about good card, put it in your deck?
Yep, it's a good card. Put it in your deck.
Hamon Blade Seeker. I know you run them.
I do. I played 2 of those as well, and it's really, again, it's kind of bricky, but if you can find a time to get it down on the board, I think it's really strong. A lot of the times, Songhai's early game is so strong that you can force Lionar to burn a Martyrdom on some random crap, and then you can just slam Hammond on the next turn. And that won me a few games. It's mostly interesting with the green tile.
Yeah, that's fun.
It doesn't punch you in the face for 1 damage, so it's just a 5 mana 8/8, which is kind of cool. So
it is pretty sick.
I don't know.
It's also just like a slow turn, so you get to draw cards, which is,
it is
good after you dump your hand early game.
Yeah, sometimes you dump your hand really hard.
It's like a nice filler for when you don't draw a div.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I'm like,
all right.
I'm kind of middling on it, like 6 out of 10. You know.
Appropriately rated in the meta. I think enough people play it as a 2 of.
Yeah. Alright. I mean,
right, let's
the rest
go to
of this.
Tribune so we can just trash all their cards.
Yeah. Stormcage, meme tier, Scarlet Viper, almost playable, I think. Not quite though. And
dies to Plasma Storm.
That's true.
Gets taunted and fucked. It's just bad times.
Keshrai doesn't have much application right now, I think.
Keshrai was just counterattack for the mirror. It doesn't really work anymore.
Vitruvian.
Okay. Now
I don't know.
Skip to the next page because nothing here is good.
I don't know anything about this faction. I'm gonna be honest.
I think there's actually an artifact event deck that people haven't built yet because Sloth is really good and blue tiles are really good. And it makes it a lot harder to remove things because you can also just green tile yourself to take less damage while still blue tiling their general. And it makes it a lot easier to prevent incidental pings and preserve artifacts. It's kind of like cool stuff.
I could see that.
I don't think it's a meta breaker. I know there's definitely a combo deck going around, or there was at the start of the month. But it's just like, high roll the Lionar player and win the game 40% of the time.
Actually, what do you think of Blind Scorch? Because, people are probably, if you're playing Vet, you don't have a lot of great cards, you're probably playing Zenrui anyway. So this might be useful for stealing other things. And like setting a minion's attack to 0 is kind of underrated. It's what blue tile does.
I think if you have questions about that, what you should do is go on Discord and ping Mazer, because he loves that.
I guess that's probably a good thing to go do.
The rest think Blind Scorch is probably good.
I don't know. These are some
an
cards.
energy good card.
This is a good card, yeah.
Gotta put it in your deck. Dunecaster, good in swarmy things.
First Wish
Swarm, good against swarmy things. First Wish just goes into everything that you play. Probably overrated card.
Probably.
Very, very good
Slightly.
card. People just think it's the best thing that's ever existed.
Yeah. Man, this again is like pretty meh.
Looking at a lot of garbage here.
A lot of garbage. I think this Pyromancer, you know, in different days I would have called this underrated. But now that everyone has Riftwalker, this is not playable for sure.
Pretty trash. Also, red tile kills it.
That's true.
So here's actually a thought. We were talking about Blind Scorch. I just realized the reason it's been seeing a lot less play is because Imperial Saboteur was added, and
this is true.
That hits most of the minions you want as Zenrui. So
this is true.
Blind Scorch is kind of redundant outside of the Lionar matchup.
I guess anything with 4 or less attack, you can Saboteur and Zenrui. But...
yeah. Entropic Decay, run it if you care about the Lionar matchup, otherwise
it's okay.
Don't. Probably a 2 of.
For 3, it's not terrible.
I think when it came out, it was severely overrated, and now it's a little underrated.
It's, it kind of depends on if people play around it. They should be playing around it, but if they don't, it can be really strong.
Around it. If I have like 2 Iron Cliffs around it, but otherwise, nah.
Most of the other stuff here is kind of this is all garbage, kind of.
Yeah, we're in Vitruvian. Moving on.
Fireblaze is really strong.
Pretty good card. Wish the rest of its synergy was better. Portal Guardian, I really like the change, honestly. I hate playing against Portal Guardian, but that's because it's a good card now.
I always hate playing against Portal Guardian. It makes me feel like if I don't answer it, I am gonna lose.
Yeah. It's a frustrating card to play against.
Yeah. Third Wish is kind of extremely middling, I feel like.
I think it's pretty trash.
Syzygy? Is that how you say that?
Syzygy, yeah.
This might be a good card.
I love that card.
It's pretty neat.
It has a couple really fun combo applications. I think it's underrated. And also, if you just want to have a good time, play it with War Talon. Randomly kill people from 25. Easy.
That's a good one.
I think I did that the first day on ladder.
Yeah.
Great.
Hexblade is not good, but I think it could have been good if there was no Sloth.
I think it could see play. With Sloth at 1/6, it can't. But
that's true.
Hexblade is on the verge of playable. I think they could honestly just push it and put it at 3 mana. And like we could have an actual artifact Vitruvian deck, and that would be cool. It would be like a good tempo play at 3 mana.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it'd be really good.
Yeah. And I think that's fine. But like this doesn't hold a Candle to Regalia at 4. And Lionar has a ton of infaction healing to support artifacts. I think Hexblade can be more pushed than it is in the artifact faction. I think the Sandheller change is pretty cool. I've been seeing people play it. I think it's
okay.
It might be a little underrated, but I don't think it's good. I don't think you put it in your deck.
Mirage Master, on the other hand, I find myself losing to this card all the time, and I'm surprised every time.
Other guy plays Mirage Master Siphon. I concede. Every time.
It's just, sometimes you get got. But for 4 mana to become anything, kind of interesting. But yeah,
Yeah. And often just finds lethal on a dervish. Pretty
that's
good
true.
card. Put it in your deck.
The rest of this. Oh man, Vitruvian.
I think Windstrike is actually underrated. I've seen a couple really good players playing it, and it is kind of a scary card because there are a couple of Vitruvian decks, notably Draggles, that just consistently push face damage, and it threatens 4 and an artifact, which just represents a lot of potential damage, and it's kind of awkward to remove.
Yeah. Well, if you think really hard about it, it's like you're paying 2 mana for a 4/3 that, and then 2 mana for your artifact. So
2 mana 4/3 flying.
exactly.
But also,
it's like flying
it dies to
Windblade.
Sloth.
It does die to Sloth, so don't play it in range. It has flying, so that shouldn't be an issue. So
play it in the corner. You'll do fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't die to Riftwalker. Everything else, I don't know. They've been the same for years.
Meh. Yeah.
Starfire is a good card against Lionar. And probably Magmar. Imara, really nice against Lionar. Time Maelstrom, probably put one in all of the decks.
Sorry, I realized I had my crafting off, so we missed Celestial Phantom, but have the rest of them.
I knew we missed one.
This thing is mid. Don't put it in your deck.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, anyway.
Most of the time you can't inner focus it. That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Abyssian Time.
Yeah. No comments on this stuff.
So I think Abyssian is a faction that should have seen the biggest spike in play this patch, and then didn't, and I'm kind of surprised.
It's an interesting
Abyss's
faction.
biggest issue, their biggest problem is they don't have consistent draw engines, and they didn't have a 6 drop. They can kind of get through the early game because they have decent enough, like, neutral 2s. They have the 3 drop.
They have a lot of good stuff early. They have Grasp and Void Pulse and
that, like,
Spec Blade. But then, like, the problem I find with this faction is always the mid game. Like, what are you playing? This stuff... So Sloth should, like, fix that.
My solution. Sloth is very good. Sloth helps fix that quite a bit. And then Desark is just a nice draw card on 6 that lets you hit all of your 7 drops on curve.
Yeah, and you can probably ramp into it with Darkfire too. So
yeah, you can run Darkfire Sack and just, like, play things early. It's not as strong on board as the 6/6 Celerity dude.
Yeah,
but it's more resilient, and most Abyssian decks don't take advantage of the 1/1s. So unless you're running, like, Deathfire Crescendo or something, Desark is probably better. I feel like people should be playing Abyssian and they aren't, especially with the prevalence of Lionar on ladder.
Yeah, I could see that. Obviously, Night Sorrow is very strong in combination with, like, Void Pulse.
In combination with all of this faction.
Well, yeah. Doing damage, which most things in this game do.
Okay, hot take. Darkspine Elemental, a little bit underrated.
Maybe. I don't know.
I only see one person play it, and it's Cola. But it's actually kind of scary, because you play through the whole game, you're using Dispel on, like, the revs and all the other things, and then suddenly he slams a 2-mana 20/20, and you're like, well, fuck.
That's true. Well,
I have to deal with this and a Revenant.
I don't know if it is a good or a bad thing that it's redundant in the way that it loses to Dispel just like everything else. I think it's a good thing because it only costs 2 mana.
Yeah. Like,
but you just can't get Light Bender.
Dispel early on. Yeah. Anyway.
So, Gloom Chaser,
I feel like
nerfed, honestly.
Yeah, genuinely, it is worse now than it was before. The random placement was better for it because you had better turn one openers, and it didn't get blood tiered. Now it trades off against 2/3s, but I feel like generally it contests less mana, and that was the main reason you ran it.
Do you think that it would be overpowered if you could select the tile that it spawns on?
Yes.
Because I think notably you could do
Um,
like Wraithling Swarm, Gloom Chaser, Prophet turn 1 or something.
yeah, I think Swarm decks would be able to go a little crazy with that. I think with the change to Soul Shatter Pact, it's actually maybe okay, but generally speaking, I would rather that not be in the game.
That's fair.
I don't like the turn 1 have Tempest boots.
Yeah. Soul Shatter Pact, I think, is interesting. Trades really well early game.
Solid Aggro Abyss card, but I think Aggro Abyss is pretty weak.
That's probably a fair assessment.
Yeah. Like, it's not the card that's going to save Aggro Abyss, it's just, if Aggro Abyss was good, that would be the thing that makes it better.
Well, I wonder if there's something there with Sloth and, like, Shadow Reflection. Because Sloth is a really good body to put this buff on. And that's not something that Abyssian really ever has. So, I don't know. Just something to think about. Spectral Blade is still good, even after the nerf.
Spectral Blade with Sloth is much better, because you can just start punching them for 4.
Red tile 5, even.
Punch for 5, yeah.
Pretty good.
There might be some game in Aggro Abyss. Once again, people just aren't really playing it.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot.
You could probably run
deck variety right now.
Just like a super low curve, run 3 Deserts and 3 Revs. It might actually be a deck. And 3 Sloths.
I think it's possible. I think after this month, when... I mean, your MMR doesn't reset, but I want to play some of these decks. Try this stuff out.
Yeah. Shadow Watcher, I think, is underrated.
I would not say that, but state your case.
It's pretty often a 3-mana 5/4, which is solid. Once again,
suppose if you trade
the early
minions early.
Yeah, like, very frequently, Abyss just gets to kill things because they have aggressively statted minions that just trade. And so I think it pretty regularly comes down just outside of the threshold of most removals early game. And it is a 3-mana card that develops into a huge threat. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's underrated. I think people write it off as like a starter deck card, and I think it is actually playable on ladder. I know Jay played it a decent amount.
I can believe you.
What, that Jay played it, or that it's decent?
No, that it's decent. I think you're actually making a pretty good case for it. It may not be as bad as most people think. Yeah, Abyss is a faction as well.
Or at least the decks that would play Shadow Watcher are bad. It's just the late game, like, engine decks that are good. And so Shadow Watcher doesn't have a place. Most of the other cards are kind of whatever, except for the Black Soulless change is really funny with White Widow and Mind Warper.
Yep.
Just fun deck.
6/4 is an interesting stat line for a 4. It's opposite Hailstone Golem. But obviously, I think it would be way too broken as a 5/5. So.
About to say, it would be pretty insane.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, maybe give Abyss a 5/5.
I don't know. I wonder maybe if they changed the stats up a little bit to be like a 4/5. I don't know if that would be too strong.
I could take a Chill Wind Yeti that fills your hand with 1/1s.
I was gonna say, I think historically a 4-mana 4/5 with an effect can be played. I mean,
Quite good.
Thunderhorn comes to mind.
Yeah, well,
But that was just broken.
that was quite an effect. Yeah. Thunderhorn, you could print that effect on a 2-attack minion and Dex
Well,
would still
yeah.
play it.
Well, yeah. You can play it in Songhai with 0 attack, probably. But yeah, the rest of this stuff.
Breath of the Unborn, now a dead card.
Yeah.
The
No more
Juggernaut
Jack's to
change
worry
didn't
about.
change anything.
Not really.
Well, not no more Jax. Abyss has Riftwalker now, so they
That's
don't
true.
need to play a shitty 4-mana spell.
That's true
They
as
can just
well.
play Riftwalker. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Dark Terminus, I think,
You gotta start
actually
chewing through these.
underrated.
Quite
Very
good.
underrated. Good removal,
think
and it only costs 4.
2 of in most Abyss decks. Yeah, and it's your Wraithling now instead of theirs.
It is your Wraithling all the time.
I think Nether Summoning is overrated. I think a lot of people play it. I think its game plan is too slow, and it mostly wins because people are bad at building decks.
I get blown out by this card a lot, so I don't know
I do
if that's
too.
an indication of anything. It's kind of high rolly. And
it's pretty high rolly, and it's very good against slow control matchups, but
Yep.
Lionar can notably outpace it even on a very slow deck. It's really only fast enough if the opponent's game plan is Zuriel, which sadly mine often is. So, dislike the card, but I do think it's overrated.
Yeah. Okay.
Shadow Dancer, Gutted, Green Tile.
OP. Vorpal Reaver's good if you can get it out with ramp.
Yeah, but once again, Desark might replace it in some decks. Also,
Nova.
Nether Summoning got a lot worse with Shadow Dancer getting a lot worse because the main deck that played it was Sarlacc, and Sarlacc is a lot worse with green tiles because suddenly it has no way to deal damage.
Right.
Nova, Rev,
These cards are good. Put them in your deck.
Entire faction. The 3 cards on the left of the screen are the entire faction.
These ones.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Magmar. Iridium Scale, first thing that comes to mind. Pretty good. Red tile, blue tile. You got something there.
Honestly, I like it. It's always kind of weird when someone plays it against me. I feel like Dire Tide Frenzy is the better of the two. But I get why people play Iridium Scale.
Yeah.
I think Dire Tide Frenzy is underrated.
Probably.
Dramatically.
I would say that.
I feel like just like put it 2 of in your deck. If you play taunt cards, it's very good. Because you get to just blow them out all the time.
Yeah.
Flash, broken.
Nothing else really stands out. Yeah,
trash.
Flash, broken. Fortitude is pretty bland now. Mana Burn, notably horrible, but does dispel sloth tiles.
And Sloth.
And sloth. So there's that. Phalanxar is not good. Don't put this in your deck. That's all I have to say.
I do think it's overrated, but I would say to put it in your deck. I think people think it's very good, and it's pretty middling.
Here's one for you.
No. Okay.
Did you know that if you put Kuhada on a green tile, it doesn't damage any of the minions that you summon?
Interaction makes sense, but I haven't actually seen it happen yet.
I've seen it once, and it was okay.
Probably.
I don't think the
legendary.
damage really mattered, but
yeah. Usually someone dropping a bomb a turn early is the thing that matters, and not the bomb having 1 more health.
Right. Just
Though it is
there.
harder to remove on green tiles.
it is.
Pretty unplayable with Riftwalker existing though, so
Mhm.
sucks.
Young Silithar, much worse with Sloth because you can put red tile under the Silithar and blue tile under your general, and it will kill the Silithar and the egg for free. So
yeah, and I think Silithar was pretty overrated before this patch. It's most of the time just a vanilla 2/3 that you have to hit an extra time, so it like eats into your action economy, but not your value.
right.
And with eggs being a lot slower than in D1, I think they're just not nearly as powerful as they used to be.
Yep. And with Sloth, the egg is not, or with Riftwalker, the egg is not usually a problem. You just kill it.
Yeah. I don't think there's any other hot takes on this page. Mind Steel is pretty good. More people should play it.
Yeah, your opponents won't play bad cards.
Tremor Recursion.
This is a draw. But
just hold on. Mind Steel is the only way to get more sloths. So really, Mind Steel is the best card in the game besides Sloth.
That is true. You can get 6 sloths.
You can get more than 6 sloths. They can have 2 sloths in hand.
That's true, I guess. You can get multiple Mind Steels. Gazer, I think this used to be good, but then they nerfed Fortitude and then nerfed Gazer at the same time, so not great.
Yeah. I think that was a pretty disappointing patch for me, because I thought those were some of the more interesting combo tools in Magmar, and I think it lost a lot of identity. Because Gazer Vindicator, I think, was one of the healthiest iterations of Vindicator as an aggro like card.
6
is pretty good.
Mana for 7 damage. Okay.
Yeah. Green Spiral Technique.
Yeah, pretty much.
Also, just good tempo sometimes. Run 4 into a Rejuvenator, have a Rush 3/5. It was nice.
Yep, and sometimes that kills a 2-drop, and then you're left with a 3/3, so.
Yeah, just like nice tempo gameplay. We like nice tempo gameplay.
Agreed.
I lose the Claws. Having a rise in popularity.
I lose this Claws more than I'd like to admit.
I lose to Claws all the time. Scariest player in the world, Silver 19 guy who equips Claws on turn 2.
This is true. Very true.
Just concede. I think Smarty has been playing a lot of Claws. It beats your face in. Notably, it has negative synergy with Sloth and also is worse against Blue Tile. But I don't think it really matters. I think Claws and Earth Sphere is like a pretty solid combo if you just want to sit there and smack a Linear player in the face for 6 turns.
It's pretty funny. And Earth Sphere healing for 9 is like, oh my god. It's too much. Can never kill Magmar players, man.
Elucidator has a pretty cool interaction with the green tile. It does less damage to you now, so
it does do less damage.
Elucidator is a little bit more possible to combo even in the late game if you can just hop on a green tile. Small thing, but cool. I think more people should play it, but I don't think it's crazy. Plasma Storm. I don't know why people aren't playing Mag. Mag has so many good tools right now, and it's just Linear.
I made a deck just before when I was looking around, and like this just seems like it's pretty good, you know? I don't really know what to play in Magmar.
A pretty similar list.
I feel like this is just pretty good.
I would add 2 of the Dispel 2-drops instead of the Greater Fortitude, but otherwise run a pretty similar list. Yeah. Dispel Dog.
Dispel Dog.
Yeah, Ephemeral Shroud. I'd also probably run Lock and Phalanx Heart, but
I see.
I just
That's an interesting.
like doing big things with
That's a
big
different
effects.
deck.
Yeah.
My Plasma's good at 4, and targeted
Plasma's
is kind of better in a way. So I don't know.
Yeah, this version of Plasma is better than the 5-mana version if it was. Like, everything about this is better than the 5-mana version that used to exist.
Mhm.
This card is insane, and more people should be playing it.
Good. Grimrock,
I
not
feel
much
like
better
it falls
at
to the
2/5.
wayside. No, Grimrock sucks. Samarui everywhere. Blue tile kills big minions.
I think Eggmorph is slightly underrated. The problem is just that there's so many 4s you want to play. Because, like, you got Veteran, Plasma, Elucidator, like, all this stuff, smack the face, heal. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot. And Sloth, obviously.
And Sloth. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff on 4, and you can't fit it all in your deck. Colossus is le shit. I think he used to be 1/7. I don't even know when he became 2/7. But
I think 3 patches ago.
Alright.
He might have just been 2/7 for all of Duelyst too.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Really good card.
Really good. Harvester, broken.
Super overrated.
Broken. No, it's broken.
Good card, super overrated.
No. It's super broken.
I think too many people just get really upset about it instead of just walking away and letting the Magmar player have nothing to do for 3 turns.
What do you do for 3 turns?
But you just pass.
Oh, okay.
It eats their board.
That's pretty casual. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. But I play slower lists. If you're playing aggro, Spirit Harvester, disgusting. Horrible.
Yes. Agreed.
Agreed. Just concede.
Very bad.
If you're playing fucking Zuriel, just chill. Go get a cup of coffee. Come back.
I understand your point of view now. Just win in fatigue. Even against 55 card decks.
Just win in fatigue.
Anyway, Fractal,
also,
this is only... What's up?
Fractal, I think, is underrated. I think a lot more decks should just run 1 Fractal, especially if they're running Vindicators. Because when you Vindicator a big minion and run it into something, it keeps the rush.
You
can Fractal it next turn and have 2 huge dudes with rush.
This is true.
Nobody knows this interaction.
This is
the people who do think it's not going to happen. It happens a lot. Play the card.
You can try it. Mechanther
Notably,
is
the biggest issue is deck space. Mechanther's pretty good. I would say that is an okay card.
Bounded is
Bounded Life Force.
A card. Not
Either
sure.
run
It's okay.
1 Fractal or 1 Bounded. I like putting 1 Bounded Life Force in pretty much all of my Magmar decks that are on the faster side of mid-range.
Now this is Green Spiral. Because it's +8 for 7.
It is. It's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, sometimes it's the worst Earth Sphere you've ever seen, but we take those.
Yes. Elder, I still think this is fine. It's so hard to remove, in my experience.
The egg change was really beneficial for it. I think it is a very good tech card against Lionar. And that's pretty much it. If you want to beat Lionar, you put 2 Elders in your deck. If you want to high roll nerds, you put 3 in with 3 Flash and 3 Desark, and you have a good time. And that
sounds like a good time. Leviathan is playable as a 1-up with Vindicator.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just flash Leviathan and get 11 damage, which is also Green Spiral, so there's a lot of spirals in Magmar.
I will love Vindicator and overrate the card because there was one game where I played it against someone who had 16 health and a huge board. And Vindicator hit him, Leviathan hit him, and then it rolled the 1 in 12 to hit him in the face.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep. Good card.
That's pretty sweet.
Probably don't play it though.
Probably not.
You're not going to be lucky.
But you could give your general +4. So think
The
about
only
that.
time it ever gives your general attack is when you have 11 health, and then you die to Spiral.
True. Anyway. Vanar. I don't know. I
I
genuinely
honestly don't
don't
know how to rate a lot of these cards.
Me neither. Spines, I
I
think,
have
is
been
good.
told that Blazing Spines is actually quite good.
I agree. And I think Fox is good because red tile, blue tile.
Yeah.
I also think
Also
that
because
maybe
Iron Cliffs are really popular right now.
I also think that a lot of this stuff, like Flash Freeze and Winterblade, might be playable if you put Desark in your deck. So, I don't know.
I agree. It's really picking your poison here.
There's some tempo stuff here.
You
And I
pick...
played a bunch on my other account. Not with Flash Freeze Desark, but like with tempo stuff. And it seems fine.
I think you can pick like 8 0 and 1 cost cards to put in a Desark deck. And so you really, it's like Blazing Spines, 2 Fox, 3 Flash Freeze, or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think that's pretty good. I also
Anything
think
else?
probably run Snow Chaser in that kind of list.
Probably.
Snow Chaser has some funny, not infinites, but you can play it on a red tile to just keep on replaying it that turn to trigger
Glacial
Vidir
Elemental.
and Glacial Elemental.
Mm-hmm.
Good times. Marcus Solitude change? I haven't actually had any time to really play around with, but it seems pretty solid.
It's okay. 6/6 is a lot of stats, and it often ends up being like a plus. I mean, what you're getting like 6/7 stats for 2 mana.
Yeah.
Seems solid.
Just don't play it on a Fire Spitter, and then you're good.
Yeah. Don't do that. Borean Bear, I mean, seems like it could be better if Blazing Spines is good.
I think even then, you're getting a 3/4.
That's fair.
Unless you're playing a dedicated wall
2-mana
deck, don't
3/4
play Borean
though.
Bear.
Seems good.
Yeah, it's really like 3 mana though, because you gotta play the
True.
walls too.
Vanar has so much
Chrome,
low-cost stuff
really
to
solid.
play. Solid.
Yeah.
Coldbiter's pretty solid, I think. I don't know.
I really like running Crystal Wisp, but I'm starting to fall off on it.
I actually hate this card.
I think the card is generally underrated, but I would say don't play it right now.
That's fair.
So, you know.
I vaguely remember
Everything
playing
else pretty good.
a deck in this open beta with Boundless Courage, and it was really strong. Boundless Courage and Flash Freeze and like tempo Iraqi Headhunter stuff. But I just can't seem to make this card work right now.
Maybe Blazing Spines is what you need. Sadly, Boundless Courage is now just Sloth.
True. So
Sloth does what you want, so don't play Boundless Courage, play Sloth.
Sloth says give an allied minion +1 this turn. It takes no damage. But you get a 1/6.
But you get a 1/6 taunt.
And you get a green tile, which is also, as we've discussed, quite broken. So there's that. Crystal Cloaker, I think, is actually solid, but only on a budget.
Crystal Cloaker is Josh's favorite card.
This
if
might
you ever
be
see
my
him
favorite
playing
card.
Vanar, that card is in his list. Every time.
It's like Windblade, you know? 2 mana 4/3.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Still dies to Boar.
Really good with Hearth Sister, and Hearth Sister is one of the best cards in the faction.
In the game.
In the game. Hailstone Prison is also really good.
Do you... Oh, you're in crafting. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. That's all I have to say about this page.
What about... You want to talk about this card?
Mesmerize, I think. Yeah, I do. I have been playing it in a mid-range Fae deck, and it's been quite powerful. Most people don't play around it.
Mm-hmm.
I think once people start playing around it, it's pretty middling. But so far, my recommendation would be to give it a spin in a couple decks. I think I would play it over Flash Freeze a lot of the time because it does a sizable amount of damage. It really clears many minions you wouldn't expect.
Right.
And it's quite good against random things like Portal Guardians, where they don't really think about playing around AoE because they're so big, but just stunning them and weakening them is quite powerful.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it clears the little minions and it stuns the big minions that you might want to stun with Flash Freeze. So it kind of does both pretty well. The rest is, I mean, Fenrir is really strong.
Snowpiercer? Yeah. Put it in all
Snowpiercer,
your
I
decks.
think, is a
Don't
good
think
card.
about it.
Especially
I think
with
Snowpiercer is
Sloth.
a lot better with Sloth. Yeah.
Pretty much.
We need to count how many times we say Sloth in this video.
Probably like 100 at least. Wolf Raven, I think, is
Wolf Raven
pretty okay.
was cool before Sloth existed, but now Sloth does it. So just play Wings.
I saw Kelvin. Kelvin told me you can play Wolf Raven with Mark of Solitude, and I said that's pretty good because you make a 6/6 that takes no damage.
I do that in Gauntlet, and it's super annoying. But otherwise, I don't know how good it is.
Yeah,
it's pretty high rolly to hit the 2 strong cards early, and play them in sequence without it getting like Phoenix Fired or something.
Yeah. Well, we did say that's a bad card, so.
Yeah, but we said it was overrated, which means people play it, but
True.
It's bad.
True. This Glacial Elemental, I still think is broken with Bone Shield Barrier.
I tried to play Deer. I tried to play Glacial Ellie Deer deck.
Mm-hmm.
It was less consistent than just playing mid-range Pandora for me.
I see.
And I was playing with Sibin and Nicole. We had the 2 greatest minds in the phase space for Deer, besides, Alpha. And it went fine. We won all the games, but it didn't feel powerful.
Right.
I think Avalanche is actually pretty underrated.
Maybe. By I think Avalanche is like a 5 out of 10, and people think it's like a 4 out of 10.
I think Avalanche is a solid 6.5 out of 10.
That seems too high, but I'll take your word for it.
It's just really solid when people start playing really aggressive decks and try and run you onto your side of the battlefield. It helps keep all your infiltrates active. Yeah. It does some good things.
It is okay, for sure. It's okay.
And nobody plays around it.
Nobody plays around it. What do you think of Aspect of the Worm? I can't imagine this is a good card. I think it should probably be 3 mana.
I think that card could be 2 mana and it would still struggle sometimes. 3 mana is probably playable.
It's just too expensive.
In D1, there was a deck that I made that made pretty good use of it, but it had a lot of token generation, and gaining flying was a lot better. The meta was a lot slower.
Right.
So you had time to play these high cost cards. I don't think that's the case in this game. I think something about the meta would need to dramatically change for it to be relevant. Though it's probably pretty funny in a Deer list because you can just make all of the tokens fly. It's just so win more because that means the tokens have to live even if they're in Guam.
Right. Razorback is really broken. One of the best cards in the faction, I would say.
Yeah. Whenever you build a Fey list, you just put in 3 Heart Sister, 3 Fenrir, 3 Razorback.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
your
then
solid
you go from
early mid.
Yep. It's just every deck. Doesn't matter what it does.
Mm-hmm.
I cut it from some slower lists because they're just going to win anyway.
Yeah. If
they get to that point, but I've never felt bad putting Razorback back in. I win a lot of games for free because I just have Razorback.
Yeah.
And suddenly a bunch of random shitters does 22 damage.
Yeah. It's useful in the early game for trading stuff, getting good value trades, and it's useful in the late game for just killing your opponent out of nowhere. So, a couple things. This card, I think, is good, but I don't know how. I
think
just feel that way. Must
I
be with
don't
Blazing
think it's
Spines.
underrated. I think it's underplayed.
I think it is underplayed.
I think a lot of people say it's a good card and then just don't put it in their list because they don't want to test it.
Right.
But with like Snowpiercer and a lot of the much more aggro-y mid-game decks or early game decks, it seems pretty solid.
Yeah. And other things, like it's good with Snowpiercer, and like if you throw it all together with Sloth, you get extra free attacks. So
because a 2/2 can hit twice all of a sudden.
mm-hmm.
Jogger Lord Change is pretty cool. I don't know how much you play it in Vesper decks. The problem with it for me is that it fucks up the cryo tutoring. Because when you're
Right.
playing Duelysts, you're really trying to use cryo as a tutor for your glacial elementals because they're what make the engine work. And so when you add a third card to the pool, it dilutes the draws significantly. But it's also just like sick tempo and really generically useful. So I don't know.
I think it's okay.
Notable big problem with it, it gets Zenruid.
It does
Because
get
it comes into play as a
Zenruid.
2/6.
It makes itself into an Ice Drake, and then they can steal it, and then they get Drogalord. So play at your own risk.
Aspect of the Mountains, I don't think is. I think more people should play it.
But it's not as good as it once was, I feel.
No, this card is sick. Put this in your lists.
Put it in your deck.
One of two of. If there's any card in Fae that people don't play that they should play, it's Aspect of the Mountains. It just casually wins a lot of games.
I think this
I would take out a Razorback and put it in an Aspect of the Mountains.
I played this a lot in the first Duelyst with like Ghost Seraphim stuff, and I thought it was really good. So I don't know, might be good here too. I play it sometimes, but I don't play a whole lot of Vanar. So you're a big Rhino enthusiast, I feel like. What do you think about this?
I liked it a lot at 5 mana. I wish it kind of stayed at 5 and just got better stats. I think it was pretty cool for a patch, and then they added Desark, and suddenly there was just a better, more consistent option.
Right.
Frosthorn's really fun high roll, but
you have to play this in your Avalanche deck.
Yeah, well, the problem is that really you're playing it to beat like Lionar or maybe Vitruvian, and they both have really good answers to it in Siphon and Martyrdom, so it just becomes a vanilla minion. And then Desark is the same. It still demands those removals, but you draw a card extra.
Yep.
Which means you get to run more aggressive early value. Like, I don't think occasionally winning games off the celerity is better than having extra draw.
But you could play Rhino because the art is sick.
Yes, and the skin from the bundle is also sick.
I'm not familiar, but I believe you. And then Tree. I think Tree is fine.
I think it's fine.
Really good against
surprising
Lionar.
How much
again
the 1/1 changes how it's at in the meta.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was so much losing the 1/1 or if it's other things, but
it made a big difference, especially against Lionar, because you could martyrdom it, but then you still had to clear it, so it took away a lot of the lethal potential.
Right, that makes sense.
It was one less glacial elemental proc, it was one less Razorback thing, you know. It added up.
The Treant is
notably really fun to play. Yeah. It's fun with Keeper.
Oh, I see.
If you ever get there.
I haven't played much or any Keeper, so.
Yeah.
Just too big
make all of your board very tall. Too big brain. Fair. All of these cards suck. profit
I
change
disagree.
overall, I think, hit
Komodo is
pretty
the
well. Komodo's the goat. Komodo is underrated.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's underrated.
I think it's adequately rated.
It's
Enough people
underplayed.
play this.
Yeah.
Profit change obviously made this card a lot worse, right?
No auto include, Lionar can play the game. Good stuff.
Yeah, I like
Kind
it.
of happy with where it fell.
I feel
Mostly,
like
I liked how the mechanic changed so that it
Yeah.
became dispellable, which
I like that
mechanically
as
made
well.
more sense to me.
I think this Dragon Lark has budget potential with the Mark of Solitude. It's like Wolf Raven, but
Honestly,
not.
maybe.
I mean, I feel like as player
Maybe Dragon
2,
Lark is the way.
I feel like as player 2 opening with a 6/6 is pretty good. But
High roll, though. It's a 2-card 6/6 that you have to hit both by turn 1.
yeah. Well, what if you played Swamp Entangler plus
What if instead
Mark?
you just played Planar Scout so that you can always do it,
Hmm.
whether you're player 1 or player 2, and you can just play a 6/6 in their face on tile?
Makes sense. Yeah, that seems awesome as player 1. Just making a 6/6 on their mana tile.
I feel like I'm losing the thread here. But yes, we're losing the thread of this video.
Well,
I think that would be a very fun deck to build.
I'm just saying. It has a cool animation.
Yeah, we love Planar Scout.
Anyway. I hate Double Agent. I think this card is bad, and you should not put it in your deck.
I love Double Agent, but I don't know if you should put it in your deck. I have been playing it a lot in lock decks as just like a cycle like Ghostlinks. It's fun. Mostly it's fun. Like, it is an enjoyable card to play.
It
puts
is,
a brick
I'm
in the
sure,
enemy deck,
enjoyable.
you get to draw one of their cards. For the fun factor, it gets an A+. I'm very happy it exists. If you like fun, play the card. If you don't like fun, well...
Hate the card, like me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We finally come around to Shaman. Probably a better card. I don't think people have been testing enough things with it.
Yeah, not enough people playing.
Yeah, all the other cards are the same. Ghostlinks is a very good card. I think it's underrated in Lionar. I think more people should play Ghostlinks in Lionar.
I feel like
There's
whenever
a couple people who played around with it.
Yeah. I was gonna say, whenever I'm playing against a Lionar and they have 5 or 6 cards in my hand, I feel like anything I play is gonna get removed. But if they're down to like 3 or 4, I feel like I stand much more of a chance. So psychologically, if you have this in your deck and you have more cards in your hand, you're probably gonna win.
I think Lionar as a faction, when they can consistently keep a full hand, is dramatically more powerful because they can keep both AoE and single target answers. And Ghostlinks is very good for just like playing in the mid game, 2-drop MO, just filling your curve, keeping your hand up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just a thing on the board. Drawing cards early is good. And
Iraqi.
even if you play it early, yeah, Iraqi's the GOAT.
Iraqi's the GOAT. What about Ghostlinks? Play it early? It's still okay. It's a 1/3.
Oh, yeah. So Lionar is one of the best factions at like flattening out an early game disadvantage on the board because I have Riftwalker and Tempest.
Right.
So even if you play early and lose board, you can just delete the board, restart with your hand advantage, and go from there, and that's pretty solid.
Yep, I agree. Dreamgazer might have some application with the green tile. You only take 1 damage. No, I feel like there are some swarmy decks that people aren't playing that could be played.
Every time I have decided that I'm going to play Degen Swarm decks, I win a lot of games. I think a lot of really high ladder players don't play them because it's a deck where you just lose 20% of the time, but you also just win like 60% of the time, and then that like 20% slice is where the win rate is to be made.
Right.
So because the best players don't play it, it doesn't get a lot of credit from the community. But I think they are very powerful. I think the only time we've really seen them rise to popularity was with Twin Fang, Lock, Phalanxar, Mag, and that died very quickly.
Our lock bone chill barrier when that was playable.
Yeah, but
That just
and
felt very
Dreamgazer also sees a bunch of like Vitruvian. I feel like any deck that runs Lock runs at least 2 Dreamgazer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 3/3 is good for free.
Yeah, 3/3 taunt.
Yeah.
For free. Mana Artificer is actually a cool card. I wish I saw more people playing around with it. I've seen a couple people play weird like Ramp Abyssian nonsense, and I think that's not really the way to use it. I think the problem with it is that mostly it just results in a tempo advantage for the opponent. I think it would be better as like a 1/5.
Interesting.
Because right now what happens is you play it, and if you play it in range where it can punch something next turn, it just gets like Rift Walkered, and they play a minion on top, and suddenly you're just down so much mana.
Right, it's really hard to utilize the mana tile, I think.
Yeah.
Your opponent has to play it
Is
in
why
range.
I think only Abyssian is playing it right now. Because you can just Dark Fire Sack it and stand on the top. I want to see a Silver Tongue Corsair deck work.
That would be great. But
All
I
I
don't
have
think
to
that's
say.
gonna happen. I don't think
it's gonna
Piercing
happen
Mantis
either.
is good. But I think maybe in Songhai you could get away with this if you had no money and this was a card you had 3 of.
Yes to that, except there's 2 really good Frenzy mechs, and I think you just play like mech Songhai if you want Frenzy and
That's fair.
Songhai.
I mean, the rest of this, Rust Crawler, not really needed. Sloth takes care of artifacts very well. Meatball, I think, is an
artifacts
underrated.
I think Meatball just doesn't do enough early game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's okay.
The niche that Meatball filled has been replaced by Sloth. It's a neutral, taunty boy that is just kind of good. And now everyone has a neutral, taunty boy that is just kind of good.
Mm-hmm. I get it. These cards are a load of garbage, I would say. Almost all of them. I mean, mechs are what they are. This is probably the best mech, honestly.
Exist.
I mean, after Metal Tooth now, but...
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
These
also,
cards
Loremaster is pretty good. The meta just doesn't fit it right now.
This is good in some decks.
Yeah, it's really good in some decks. It's just the meta is too fast right now for it.
Yeah, the decks it's good in, it's really good, but it doesn't have a lot of application outside of like fatigue or like.
It was
I don't know,
a really powerful targeted draw tool, and that was good. But they've just added so much generic good draw to the game that its niche is kind of overtaken by Ghostlinks and Desark and all these other cards. Yeah. I like seeing Chaos Elemental and Songhai and Vitruvian. I think you can play a little bit more than it is played, but not amazing.
Not a lot though. Just a 3-mana 4/4 that requires extra work is kind of hard to justify.
Metal Tooth, pretty big.
Really great. Fantastic unit.
Mechs don't see enough play. I don't really want mechs to see more play.
Yeah, me neither.
But mechs are quite good, I think, because of this card.
I'm already playing Sword in my Songhai list, so I wonder if you could just add Metal Tooth on top, or if that'd be too much.
I don't think you can.
Probably too much.
Because if you're running
is.
Yeah. And, it's never going to stick, and you have to draw both at the same time. It's just like
It's too
a big
much.
pile of requirements. Yeah, all of these cards are fine. Riftwalker, very, very good meta-defining card.
Yes,
Repulsor Beast,
obviously very good.
kind of curious to see how it pans out with
Could be
the
playable
tiles.
with
I don't think
tiles.
people have tried it.
Yeah.
Throw shit on blue tiles, eat it for
I
free.
think this
Like,
card
decent
isn't
removal card
really
for
that
decks that
bad.
don't have removal.
I don't think it's that bad anyway.
It's always been just borderline playable. I really want to see it become a 2/3 so that people just put it in every deck.
Yeah, I think that
cool.
would be really
I would
good.
like to see a world where Repulsor Beast is a good card.
I agree.
Thoughts on Owl Beast Adept? I've seen it played a single time since its release.
I haven't seen anyone play this. I don't think it's bad, but I also don't think it's good. And there's not really a reason to play anti-spell tech, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, if it gained health when the opponent played spells, I think it would be more interesting. I think as it stands now, it's kind of bad. If they flipped it, it could be kind of good. Because then it would just be a resilient 3-drop that has some spell protection, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And then it has synergy with aggressive lists trying to just like burn you down with spells. I think the flipped synergy is just awkward.
Yeah. Do you think Lady Lock is pretty much just strictly better than Blood?
No. I think they fit different roles.
Who would you use a Blood for?
Generally, Blood you want to play as a setup card. Lady Lock you have to combo, so it's either you're playing it on turn 2 and taking 2 tiles to play 2 to 3 minions, or you're playing it in the late game with a whole bunch of dudes as a defensive tool, or some amount of both. Blood you play in swarmier lists where you want to have a slow turn to draw a card and then fill the board with stuff. So I think you play it in conjunction with Lock for those kinds of decks, or you play it on its own. I know this was months ago now. Mez was running it when he was testing different deer lists because he would play it on the board before his deer turn and then make the tokens 3/3s because Lock doesn't hit tokens anymore, which is notably another niche for Blood.
Pretty smart about it, because the deer spawns are random, so.
Yeah, I mean, you play the deer on the wall and then you play the Blood either directly adjacent to it or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter how long it takes to get there because at 3/3 Lio can't clear it, Songhai has no board clear, Vet just has Blast, Abyss has Grasp. That's it. Mag
and beats Riftwalker.
Harvester doesn't clear it. Beats Riftwalker, beats Harvester, loses to Plasma. So, generally pretty resilient to that point.
These are cards. I saw someone playing Shield Oracle with the green tile, which is kind of interesting. Kind of makes you invincible, honestly. But
I have heard of that interaction. I haven't seen it yet.
I'm not sure.
Kind of curious. I want to see more testing on that. But that seems like pretty sick, especially because there used to be those Artifact Vitruvian players who would run Shield Oracle. Maybe with Sloth and Shield Oracle and Artifacts, there is some secret sauce to be had.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Once again, community, please test.
Sarlacc, I hate you. I wish this card didn't exist. It makes me really angry. I don't think it's good though.
I like Sarlacc as a card. I like that it exists. I just want Lightbender to be better, not Sarlacc to be worse.
I see.
Yeah.
Tiger is fine. Pretty decent minion. Good with blue tile.
Or I would like Shadow Dancer to not exist. I would rather that than Sarlacc.
It doesn't exist anymore, but...
Yeah. Bless.
Okay,
Tiger, pretty good with blue tile. Pretty good with red tile.
Sword of Mechazor playable in Songhai, Inner Focus, and red and blue tiles and Saber Spine Seals and juxtapositions and stuff. I play it. I think it's fine. Um, Sworn
Yeah.
Avenger. What do you think?
Um, I don't know why more people don't play it, to be totally honest. I don't play it. The times I have played it, it's been pretty good.
Hmm?
I had a. It wasn't quite a mid-range Duelyst, but it wasn't an aggro Duelyst. It ran like Orin Nexus and Skywind Glaives, and Sworn Avenger was amazing in that. Just ran away with games all the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't run enough targeted removal or dispel. They run, Riftwalker and expect it to answer the backline threats,
Right.
and then it doesn't.
I think it's okay. I seen one person play it recently. I remember it being very popular at the end of Duelyst 1 in one draw. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
good it is now.
One draw was a little bit different. I think it's just too slow for most people.
I think it probably is, yeah.
And I think the biggest issue is that Boar clears it really efficiently.
That is a big one.
But like, if you're running Lady Lock, Dreamgazer, Riftwalker, that whole thing, there's a pretty good world for it.
There's something, probably. The only thing I can think of Civril is more blue tile shenanigans. Just repositioning.
Also, doesn't die to Boar.
Doesn't die to Boar. It is a 1/4. This is a really interesting card because, like, as a ranged unit, it's not really great. It's definitely meant to be for the repositioning, but I just don't know, like, what to do with it.
It has the obvious synergy with Backstab, which doesn't have enough support.
Mhm.
It's interesting with blue tiles, but most of the decks that want to run it don't have ways to give it enough attack to make it relevant in that sense. It's just Repulsor Beast, but slower most of the time. And sometimes it makes value by just dealing damage as a ranged minion.
It's unfortunate that it's as bad as it is, because I think it's really cool, and its art is super sweet.
Yeah.
These cards are really
A casualty of the sloth.
really bad
Venom
cards.
Toss is no more.
Wings is okay. You can play this
Locust?
just in a deck.
No. Wings is a card that's severely underrated. I think there's a couple people who like it, and it's such a good card.
See, I think Wings is like a
the
6.5, and people rate it at like a 4.5. What do you think?
Wings, to me, it depends on the faction. I think in Lionar, it's like a 7.5, and in Songhai, this was before the div change, but in Songhai, in a more like traditional burn list, it was the secret sauce to win the Lio matchup. Me and Zohan played a bunch of games before a week of Team Wars, and we basically boiled down the Lio matchup with Songhai to draw Ironcliff to win.
Right.
And then he made a weird kind of minion, kind of burn list that ran Wings, and it could just very consistently kill you from very high health totals on early turns because it's just 5 damage that can hit from anywhere and carry all the buffs. And
yeah,
it's a good card. It's also really crazy with blue tiles. Once again,
true.
Sloth breaking the meta.
That's true.
I think if you run Sloth, it's a pretty solid inclusion. Without Sloth, it is like a 6 out of 10. With Sloth, it's like a 7.5, 8.
Yeah, Wings is good. I like Wings. I really liked the Songhai flying minion, the 3-mana 3/4 from the old game. I think flying is just kind of underrated. Like,
yeah,
just super good.
3/4 flying. If Aura Zero was added to Lionar, it would be disgustingly broken.
Yeah. Holy Emo it? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Black Locust is actually underrated. I think there
What
are
makes
some
you say
decks that
that?
it works in. It is Jack's True Sight.
Mm, you could say that.
Just
I don't know if I'd
just
believe
with
it.
different text. So in Fae, if specifically Fae, is
Mhm.
maybe there's an Abyssian deck that could run it, but in Fae, you play Black Locust turn 2, and you
Sure.
have 2 of them. And Lionar, well, okay. Riftwalker kind of changes it now because the spawns are RNG. Sometimes you just get fucked.
Yeah.
But Lionar could answer it with Tempest, and that was it. But turn 2, very inconsistent. Songhai had no specific answer. They could cobble together things, but it cost them a lot of cards. Vitruvian had Siphon exclusively,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't do it. Abyssian has Blood Tear, and now they have Void
Void
Pulse.
Pulse.
And Magmar had nothing. So all the factions had like pretty inconsistent answers to it, and it would just sit in the corner and become lethal on turn 3 with
Yeah.
Razorback.
Well, now I can't really imagine that this is very good with Riftwalker in every deck, but I could have seen
Yeah.
it.
In the good old days, I came pretty close to winning a tournament with it.
Mm,
It was a good time.
it's nice.
Duelyst, honestly, I don't. I the entire time I've played, I've thought this card should see more play, and I get why people don't play it, but I think there's a lot of decks that could run it and just don't.
Yeah,
I think it's a more interesting card than Rejuve,
haven't seen
and I think
anyone
it
play
does
this.
a lot more useful things. Every time I've played it, it's been really good, and then I've just like taken it out of my deck and played something else, and not because it
0-10 is-
underperformed.
A 0-10 is highly annoying. So there's
0-10
that.
is fucking huge. And a 6-2, like, 4 mana deal 6 to your face. Everyone's like, oh, General clears it. Well, General took 6 damage to clear it.
Mhm.
That's nothing to sniff at.
It's almost like an anti-aggro card.
Yeah.
Like you could put this in your deck to maybe
also-
win the mirror.
It's quite good in Lionar, because Lionar doesn't have a ton of answers to it.
Right.
And, who...
I mean, there's 2 mana
Demi
bond
Remy
now.
was not... Was it Demi? Demi Remy was playing it in Songhai when he started playing again, and it was actually really frustrating. Because it's a 6-2 that just gets blinked across the board and hits you in the face, and then you Killing Edge the Tombstone, and it's a 4/12.
It's a big body.
Yeah, and Songhai doesn't have those.
That's
He
true.
was playing Duelyst and
Mhm.
the 8/8. Come on.
Yeah.
And
I
it
can
was
see it.
actually pretty good.
I could see it. The rest of these
So I
cards
think there's
are
potential for it.
not good.
Yeah. Kind of whatever.
Artifact Hunter, maybe.
If you have 1 mana artifact, yeah.
Yeah.
That was what I was gonna say.
Emerald Rejuvenator has
I would
been
love to see-
pushed out of the meta by Sloth.
Yes. Sloth does damage mitigation better, and it does tempo better. Sunriser got nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
Rejuve, I think, was always pretty overrated. It felt obligatory in some decks as the only way you could survive Songhai, but very often the best way to survive Songhai was just to play Lock and Profit and put minions between you and them, and then you would win because they couldn't clear your board. And so I feel Rejuve has consistently been overrated, especially in Magmar, where you have Veteran Silithar in the same slot.
I agree. Naga, I think, is slightly underrated. I don't think it's a great card, but it has some usage.
I think Naga was underrated, and then they printed Riftwalker, which is just Naga, but for 3 mana with airdrop.
Yeah.
So
Hailstone
Naga.
is
It was fun.
Hailstone. It's okay. He has teeny tiny little red eyes.
Duel
which I never
Power
noticed.
Card Hearthstone, and that's all that matters.
That's true. This thing, I think, was good as a 4th Mechanter with Vindicator, but I don't know if it's good
Yes.
anymore.
I think it's still pretty good. I think Magmar is on to bigger, better things at this point, but I think it's definitely still playable.
Yeah. Keeper is a highly interesting card. You could probably make a whole video about this thing.
Yes.
It's good.
Keeper is a 10 out of 10 card and exceedingly meta dependent. I don't think this is the meta for it, but it is a game breaking card when it's good.
Yeah, it's a fair assessment. Lightbender, not great.
Make Lightbender a 4/4. Make it a 4/4 or a 3/4.
3/4,
Dispel,
probably.
okay. Dispel is a really
Owls.
important thing that is
It is.
necessitated by a lot of cards right now, and having really bad neutral Dispel is just frustrating.
Yeah. The
Because
Dispel Dog
it's
should be
tempo
a 1/3, I think.
Yeah. And Lightbender is a 3/4. As a 3/4 would be quite good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It contests the 4-drop slot, so it's very hard to put it in decks as it is. You could move it to 3 mana as a 3/3. That would be pretty cool too. Or a 2/3.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
I would like to see 3 mana 2/3 Lightbender.
Yeah, I think I would dig that.
Yeah, having neutral Dispel is cool. The only thing it's tempo positive against is obelisks. And literally just like playing a minion is tempo positive against obelisks. So, big deal.
I do wonder if 3 mana 2/3 Lightbender would just be like a lot better than the 2 mana 1/3 dog, though.
Oh, it would be. Dog would have to be something else.
Dog could be a 2/3. No?
Dog
All
could
these
be
other
a 2/3.
all these other 2/3s do stuff.
You know, you could make Lightbender have different targeting.
You could make
Like,
it have
it
sloth
just
targeting.
hits- Yeah, or like a row around it. Like
Right.
it does 3 tiles in a line on one of its sides.
Right, that's interesting.
Something like that could be interesting.
That would be really
And
cool
just
if you
cut
could
its
just
cost
pick
down
a
a little bit.
3, like north, south, east, or west of it.
Yeah, a 3/1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Or make it cast a Lantern spell. The 2 mana one.
Sunbloom.
Yeah,
Or no.
that. Anyway. I really wish we could see if Primus Shieldmaster was good, but Sloth exists.
But sloth is better.
Yeah. I'm glad they finally
Purgat-
changed it to a 2/6. It
Yeah.
should still probably just be a 3/6.
I think Purgatos is good, but not right now because Zenrui is very prevalent. And if you
Yeah.
play this and it gets Zenrui, you lose the game. So
I think even when Purgatos is good, it's not that good.
that's fair. It's like another 6 out of 10. But I like it because it has swag.
Yeah. It definitely does.
It's such a big
I
card.
like playing it instead of Rejuvenator, but the problem is that the reason you play Rejuvenator is immediate healing, and Purgatos is like you plan the healing in advance, and so they fill different roles, and most decks don't want what Purgatos does. They want what Rejuvenator does.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So Sloth, obviously the most broken minion in the game right now. But actually,
I think it's
it's
pretty
not
bad.
bad for the game. I don't think.
No, I have been very much enjoying its addition to the game. I think it's definitely overtuned. I think the blue tile should probably change to no counterattacks on like attacking from the tile, but
Yep.
hitting people on the tile doesn't just murder them.
Yep.
And maybe a stat change.
I think maybe 1-5. You know?
I was thinking
6 is just a
2-5,
lot
but yeah,
of health.
6 is a lot of health. But overall,
Good card.
I like
I'm
the
glad
card.
it
I like the
exists.
direction, and I think a rework of the green tile might be in order. As much as I love that it kills the cards I don't like.
Well, I think it should exist
something like
in
a
its
spell damage boost.
I think it should exist in its current form, but I don't think that it should be so versatile in other ways. Like, I think that if
You know,
I would like the green tile to exist to counter Foreman's Magi and Shadow Dancer and all these other things, but I think that the card has to be less good in other aspects, like a blue tile nerf.
yeah. Or I think another good change would be pushing it to 5 mana. Because right now, 4 mana
Yeah,
is
4 is
the
pretty
biggest
early.
diversity slot in every faction. And so by putting a must-pick card in the 4 slot, like with Rejuve and prior metas and Slothguard in this one, you create this really unfun dynamic where you just have to put the good card in and you can't put in all the interesting 4-drops like White Widow or Songweaver, like things make the game a little bit more dynamic. Instead, it's just Slothguard on turn 2 every game.
Yep.
And so
that's what it boils down to mostly.
I also think it's just really polarizing on turn 2. So pushing it to 5 or 6 mana, but keeping the effects the same might also work to fix the card. Obviously, changing the stats. I think if it was like a 2/7 at maybe like a 3/7 at 6 mana, it would still be quite powerful. It would just change its role in the meta. It becomes more of a mid-range tool.
Yeah. I think I want it to be a defensive card, but it's in its current form is just way too strong offensively.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would like it to play more into the defensive aspects.
I mean, look at his shield.
Right now, blue power. Yeah, he's literally just a knight with a shield.
He's a shield and he has provoke. Like, why does he also make it so I can kill my opponent for free? I don't know.
Maybe totally rework the blue tile. It could be weaker. Just make it like spell damage reduction or something. Just go harder into the defensive aspects of the card. Maybe just make it the healing tile of old, but don't make it actually heal. Make it increase the health of the unit on that tile. Like +0/+1.
Right. That way you don't trigger heal effects, but still get the
healing
health.
effects. Yeah. There are directions they could take this card, and I think they are going to make changes to it.
Yeah, I think have faith that they'll get around to these things.
Yeah, it was a big card with fun impact that represented the company. I think they just wanted to like have a splash, and then they'll tune it down to something more acceptable, which I think is totally fair. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm happy.
As long as it's not 6 months from now, it'll be fine.
Right.
Moving
on. The rest of these are pretty unnoteworthy. Ash Method might be something. This new effect is pretty good with Lady Lock, I guess.
It's a cool change. I'm curious to see where it goes. Tethermancer, thoughts?
I haven't played it. I haven't tried playing it. I thought that it could be good for like a tempo-y deck, but I just don't know. I don't think it's good.
I have had it played against me a couple times, and it's actually been pretty funny. I think people could play the card. I think people write it off too quickly.
I think you could get away with it.
Because, yeah, very often it comes down as just like a 2 mana 2/6 on turn 3, and that's kind of cool.
I have to try.
Yeah. The White Widow change made me sad, but I understand it.
Right.
I think so. This was a big thing for me. Skipping ahead in the list a little bit, Lux Ignis was a card that I was playing a lot in Helionar, and I was quite successful with it because you could set up it on a turn, and if it lived, you would just get huge Sunriser turns, like 8+ damage AoEs, very easily, and that was really strong. I think it was underrated in the deck, if a little high rolly. Sadly, Zenrui meta.
Yeah, that is
rough.
not something you want getting Zenruied right now.
Yeah.
The rest
Same thing for Dagger Kiri and all the other shit.
Dancing Blades is still like fine as it always has been. Don't really see a reason to play it. Sloth kind of does the same thing. Kind of. The 3 damage.
For 4 mana.
Yeah, for free. So, I don't know.
More possibly, and you can target it around minions and they can't play around it besides just keeping it out of range of shit. Sworn Defender sucks. Its stats aren't good enough.
The High Hand might...
High Hand, kind of the same deal.
He's kind of like a Hammond. 5 mana, 8/8.
I played against a really interesting deck that played High Hand with Keeper. And High Hand with Keeper, it only loses 2/2. So it was a 1 mana, like 7/7.
5/5, 6/6, 7/7. Yeah, I can see it. That's cool.
Yeah. It was a Fey list, so
Just
they played
play
like Ramp,
Lightbender.
High Hand. Yeah. Well, I don't think we need to worry about that.
Yeah. No, that's cool though.
I don't think it's underrated though.
No, I don't.
Twilight Cirque is a card.
This guy is one of the OGs of Duelyst.
Yeah. Super meta defining. I don't know why it isn't being played right now because there's so many cards it's powerful with. It has a good stat line, and it just does everything well.
Yeah,
like
I don't know
getting
if it's
extra grasps or tempests or immos or inner focus or siphon or first wish or like everything. Yeah. It's just so good.
I do find it best with cheap spells. One thing that it does combo well with is like inner focus.
Yeah, inner focus, now that it's a 3/7, being able to double grasp in a turn on 7 mana is actually insane. It clears so many boards.
Yeah.
1 grasp is often pretty middling. 2 is insane.
Yeah, 6 AoE is a lot.
Yeah, because you can chain them too.
That's true. That's an interesting point.
Card tech against Sloth.
This card is good. If you play this on a Sloth, you are like 80% to win the game, I feel like.
If someone turn 2 Sloths you, your odds of winning the game are probably like 20%. If you play Zenrui on it, your odds go like completely flipped. You're now 80% to win the game.
It's really good.
If you don't want to just lose to Sloth, play 2 Zenruis. I don't most of the time, but good card.
Yeah, I also don't really play this, but it has destroyed me on multiple occasions, so.
I'd like to see its stats changed. I want it to be like a 3/4.
See, I think that would be too strong.
Well, it has always sat on the outside of the meta and been hard to play. I think if it just got a little bit of a push, it would be pretty consistently present in the meta, but not a must pick. And I think that would be a cool place for this card. Because it kind of runs in the same vein as cards like Dancing Blades, and I'd like to see it, but not just in metas where it's simply backbreaking or unplayable, depending on the matchup.
Yep. I agree. Now we're getting kind of into like meme territory. I mean, Bone Reaper is not really playable while Zenrui is popular, but I do like this card. Just not great now.
It's got... Yeah. I'd love to see Blighter see more play, but its
Yeah.
interaction with Martyrdom is kind of backbreaking.
Yes, so if you play
Um,
this and it gets martyrdomed, you don't heal. So that's pretty awful.
yeah.
This sword, I think, is playable
Zark,
with
we've talked a lot
Vindicator.
about. I see a lot of people playing Sword with Vindicator, and there are just other cards I would
There
rather
are
play.
more green spirals that you can do.
Yeah, there are bigger hits. Like, for one, Desark is just generically better in a lot of situations. I think Sword is a cool card. It just feels really awkward when Syndra exists.
Well, it's a lot more interesting now
Especially
that
because most of
it gives your general attack, I think.
Syndra. Yeah. Oh, no, that was such a cool change.
Mhm.
And I think it's actually a lot better than it was 2 patches ago because Syndra's fallen out of the meta pretty heavily.
Right.
Because Desark has replaced it as like the de facto mid-range big body slot. It used to be Archon, then it became Syndra, now it's Desark. Akrina had a day in the sun where people were playing it, and it was interesting. I think it's like good. Sala played around with it and gave up on it after like 2 weeks. I
It's
think
okay.
Abracadabra still plays it in Map. It's fine. It's a cool card. We like it.
Yeah. The rest of these, though, do not add to your deck, I would say. Unless you're playing Bug Vet.
Stormaratha is almost good.
Almost. Not really, though.
Not really, though. If it did 4 damage, it would be neutral Mecanter.
I don't know what they were going for with this Astral Crusader. I think this is a meme.
I don't really know either.
Dark Nemesis is just
I've
too
seen it played
slow.
a single time.
Too slow to be a good win con. I saw
It's okay in Lyomir, but
I saw a deck with Grail Master. Oh, I saw someone on Duelyst. They made a Grail Master deck with Sloth and Snow Chaser, and it was called like Red Tile Engine, and you just use the red tile to recycle the Snow Chaser and give your Grail Master all the stats. Or all the keywords.
pretty cool.
So I don't think that's good, but it is something you can do.
No.
Too much
Grail
setup,
Master
for sure.
is the
It's a
only
lot-
time I think Grail Master is playable is instead of Pandora in a Zuriel deck. Because when you Zuriel Grail Master back to life, it gains keywords for all of the things that are summoned by the Zuriel.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's better at 7/7 than it was at 5/5, so there is that.
Hell yeah. I want to talk about Jax a little bit.
Go for it.
Obviously,
not many words
Riftwalker
on it.
change, kind of bad for it. Because Riftwalker almost always kills 3. But I feel like people unfairly just binned the card after the change. But really, it just came down a turn later and still won the game if you played Jax Prophet against Lionheart. It was super underrated immediately after the patch. Generally speaking, it didn't change. It just stopped being a huge high roll to play at turn 2 or 3.
Yeah, I agree. I think
it still did the same thing.
I thought about this card earlier today, and I mean, I don't know. It just comes down one turn later. I don't think that completely makes it useless, but yeah, I mean, with Riftwalker is pretty rough now. Just the fact that everyone has access to that AoE that's gonna kill probably 3 of those, and then you probably can punch one off. So like, doesn't really cut it. You're a big Pandora fan.
Yes. Yes, I am. Doesn't
See, I don't really play
Syndra
these.
What?
Said I don't really play these cards, so I don't have a lot to say. But Pandora has really cool art at the very least.
It is the embodiment of mid-range good stuff. You bait out the removal and you slam Pandora, and it just kind of wins you the game over the next 3 turns.
Yep.
It's good in a lot of slower lists. It's probably like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10, in all honesty. It loses to a lot of things pretty hard. Metamorphosis, Plasma Storm, Mirage Master, Siphon Energy, Songhai just killing you with Spiral Technique.
Yeah.
But
it is okay.
You know, really nice into Lionar. And Lionar is a lot of ladder.
Lionar is very prevalent, so could play your Pandoras.
Yeah. Chimera is just Pandora, but bad.
Yes, but fun in Magmar.
Its tokens are worse.
You could get
Chimera is so much fun.
You could get Mechazor.
You actually often get Mechazor because
honestly,
I limited the token pool.
I'm very surprised that it doesn't show all the tokens underneath here.
It's like 15 tokens.
Yeah, well, they can show
it's all the Pandora minions.
All these.
Yeah, because there's 5.
Well, it's like Pandora, Dervishes, Winter Myriad, like all the fan art tokens, Mechazor, Illusion.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of garbage. You can get eggs, can't you? Or no, you can't get eggs.
I think they've pulled eggs from the pool. It is a curated pool now. There's a couple things that aren't in it because they were just weird.
I see.
So most of the time you get Pandora minions out of it. Sometimes you get like a Jax summon, and sometimes you get a Mechazor. The pool is actually pretty strong, and it procs pretty consistently. It's just 8 mana, so you can't play it with anything else. Right. You can't like Martyrdom on the same turn, or play Hellstone, or, you know, Lure.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't fit into your curve nicely, so it bricks your late game. Resummoning it with Zuriel means you've just bricked 2 turns in a row where you can't do anything. Just locks you into a really specific game plan.
It's not great, but like the rest of these minions, they're pretty badass. In terms of art.
Yeah.
For some reason, Pado has a little scroll bar. I'm not sure what this is about. But look at the art.
Some hidden tech.
Oh, I can't even see the art because I don't have it. That's messed up. Oh, here we go. Nice. And
such a cool card.
The last card, Zuriel.
Favorite card.
I don't know. It is a card.
It is certainly a card. Honestly, I would say it's underrated. I think most of the games that it wins you would also be won by just playing something like a Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, you could play Nether Summoning if you're Abyssian.
You could play Nether Summoning. I think the best thing to say about this card is if you are not the best player, if you're like a solid Diamond S rank player, and you want to beat Sulliphid, this is the card to do it with.
That's true. Is this like in terms of he plays pretty slowly, or why would this card in particular counter Sulliphid?
Sulliphid plays like really consistent mid-range threats. He plays removal, but he doesn't play big blowout cards, and he doesn't play answers to big blowout cards. So you play Pandora on, 7 to 8 mana. He removes it. You play Zuriel. He doesn't have an answer to it. He can answer one of them, and you just win on value.
Right.
You do stupid Venar things, and you ramp it out. You do stupid Abyssian things, and you ramp it out. And it's just such a huge value bomb that no amount of Sulliphid being really good at the game and positioning well can make up for the fact that you just have so much more board.
It does feel kind of cheesy in that way.
It is. It is straight cheese. But
one thing I think is good.
Pretty good cheese.
Is you can Vorpal Reaver, and then if they kill it and leave any of the Wraithlings alive, you can DFS into Zuriel, which is okay. I don't know. I also
that
like
one.
how it is a
Pretty great.
9/7 with airdrop flying itself, so you have to worry about the minion, but you also have to worry about everything it brings back.
It is threatening on its
It's
own.
kind of like 2 or
Also,
3
Magmar
threats in
can
that
fly
way.
out.
They can.
Like,
That's
you can
true.
just play kind of good stuff, neutral minions in Magmar, or,
Mhm.
Veteran Silithars, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then just Zuriel them all back with Flash on 7 mana. Pretty good.
Sounds good.
It It's definitely cheesy, it's definitely high roll, but, if you want to farm Lionar players on ladder, this is the card to do it with.
And it's a
Because
cool
Lionar
ass
does not
dragon
answer
thing.
it unless they play Decimate. And it's so cool. And it's fun.
I guess it's supposed to be like a
Right.
phoenix, isn't it? But it's like a weird looking
Yeah.
thing.
Reviving everything from the ashes.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Alright, well, that was fun. I'm exhausted. It's been like over 2 hours, I think.
2 hours.
2.5. So
Yeah, I think it's
that
been
was
2 hours.
that was thrilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you get to go through and timestamp every single card.
No, I thought about that. That is not happening. Someone can do that for me in the comment section. In fact, if you did it, I'd be very appreciative. But all right. Now, at the end of the video, if you are hearing me, which maybe be like 10% of you, you have to comment what you disagree and what you agree with. Okay. That's our deal.
10% is a really high number for a 2-hour.
But most people might scrub
ramble.
to the end to see what we say, you know?
True.
So, anyway, I'm going to end the video. Good night. That was fun.